Some of y'all about to be real mad at me, but it must be said.
Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today's video is an interesting video that I've been meaning to do for a while, and I just kind of was prompted to do this video, as I will explain later in this video, like what prompted me to do it. But I wanted to talk about this interesting conversation that people have had recently about industry plants and who in the music industry is an industry plant. And I've just seen a lot of people talk about it, and I think it's a very interesting thing to talk about and just to kind of explore, like, who do we think are actually industry plants and they didn't really come up the way that they may portray their come up to be. So before we do get into this video, please go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Turn on the post notifications so that you are notified of the next time that I post a video. And follow me on Twitter. My Twitter will be in the description below. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into the video. So what is an industry plant? For the sake of this video, I'm going to be using this definition. And it is... an industry plant is an artist who has a major or indie label backing their movement, but presents themselves as a homegrown startup label to create organic following. So I see this as an artist who has been backed by a major label, who has had a lot of support, who hasn't had to maybe come up the way that other artists have had to come up. But they kind of make it seem as if they came up as like an indie or independent artist, when in reality they really weren't. And this is a tactic that I think that these industry moguls use to endear people to the general public. People would rather support an underdog. People would rather support someone who had to really work hard for their success rather than someone who was backed and supported by a label from the beginning. So sometimes industry plants might keep it kind of under wraps as to how they really came up, or their labels won't really mention how they were discovered or when they were discovered, and you can't really find that information unless you kind of dig deeper, because they want to make it seem as if these people are more, I guess, organically they've organically come up rather than being pushed by the industry, being pushed by these big labels. Now, what prompted me to make this video, especially now, even though I've been thinking about making this video, is because of what Her posted. Now, if you don't know who Her is, she is an artist who has been in the game for a while now. I've been listening to Her since like my junior year of high school, so it's been a minute. And there's been a lot of discourse and discussion about how Her is an industry plant. And so she recently posted on her Instagram story saying, "I've seen many bands and artists with a small amount of followers sell out at MSG and headline some huge festivals. Y'all think everybody's underrated or an industry plant with massive success outside of Instagram? Y'all got the game twisted." So I think that she really was talking about people maybe being industry plants and how people perceive artists and their come up, because she's had a lot of these types of accusations and allegations thrown at her. Now, just for reference, the way that a lot of people, or at least the way that I came into knowing who Her was and everything, was because she basically just made music under this name Her, and we didn't really know who she was for a long time. Now, a lot of people didn't do that much digging, and I don't think that she was as out in the media as she is now. But for a while, a lot of people kind of didn't even know what she really looked like until she did a lot more public appearances. So for a long time, she just seemed like kind of a project. She seemed like this interesting, kind of anonymous person who was making music under this name Her, not really showing her face, not really showing what she looked like and everything like that, but making some really cool R&B music that I still really enjoy, especially like I think her first album, or like her first few projects, like as Her, I really, really enjoyed. However, a lot of people have started to criticize her because she has been pushed a lot in the media. She wins Grammys all the time. She wins different awards all the time. She somehow gets all of these big gigs. She's in all of these different commercials, and it doesn't really seem as organic as it was. And she seems to be very pushed in the media, which for someone who started out, or at least started out as her, as kind of an anonymous person, it feels weird. It feels like she's an industry plant. That's what it feels like. Now, hers real name is Gabby Wilson, and her father's name is Kenny Wilson. He is actually on like some Grammy committees, and he himself is an artist. And for hers whole childhood, if you look her up, she has been in the media for a long time, doing different performances as a child and growing up just making music, trying to make it in the industry, and I think getting a boost a lot from her father. Now, if that doesn't kind of scream industry plant to you, I don't know what does. Especially because it seemed like for a while, oh, there's this person doing this really cool project. She kind of seems like someone who just came out of nowhere and took the world by storm. But in my opinion, with her background, knowing that she's getting all of these Grammy nominations, but her dad is in cahoots with the Grammys, and honestly, in my opinion, getting some Grammy nominations that I don't think that she deserves, but that's neither here nor there, considering how many other people got Grammys that definitely didn't deserve it. I mean, if Cardi B has a Grammy, they might as well just hand them out like candy. But with her background, with her father's background, you can't sit here and tell me that that was that was necessarily organic. You can't sit here and tell me that the whole her persona was contrived, especially because she continues to use it even though it's clearly not anonymous anymore, and she does all of these public appearances as her, that once started out as, it seemed like just like an anonymous project. It seemed like a different persona, or it just seemed like a project rather than now she's using her as like a stage name and still trying to make it seem like she's anonymous by wearing glasses everywhere, but it's not anonymous at all. So it seems very much contrived in my opinion. Now, does this take away from her talent? Absolutely not. Just because someone is an industry plant doesn't mean that they aren't extremely talented. I think that her is extremely talented and makes good music. I'm not taking that away from her. Honestly, if she even if she is an industry plant, I would still enjoy her music. But I don't like the deceptiveness. I don't like how these artists are kind of deceiving their fan bases, especially her, just because of the way that she came up. If you were there for that, then you understand how weird it is to see her on all of these stages and to see her doing all of these really public appearances, knowing how she started or how this whole her persona started. So that's the only issue that I have with it, is that it feels deceitful. But as far as her talent goes, man, it doesn't matter who your father is. Like, for example, Willow Smith, I think that the music that she's been coming out with is extremely good. I don't care that she's had a lot of advantages because her father is Will Smith. If the music is good, I am going to listen to it. I don't care who your dad is. I don't care where you came from. If you make good music and if you're an artist, I will listen to you. And I believe that her is an artist. Like, no one will be able to take that away from her, regardless of if she's an industry plant or not. But transparency, I respect transparency much more. I would appreciate that from her much more than what I think that she's doing. And I honestly think that the whole her persona was very much contrived just so that she is interesting. They just kind of were like, hey, let's make someone who's really interesting and boost her music. Let's start it off and make it seem like, she's not being backed by big labels when she probably was, considering who her father is. So, yes, I think that her is definitely an industry plant. And here are some more people who I think are industry plants, in my personal opinion. So, next we have Madison Beer. Madison Beer is an interesting case because I caught it a long time ago. I caught it when she first was discovered, allegedly, but I don't think that she's as successful as other industry plants that I will talk about in this video. And I think that has a lot of other factors, which I actually talked about. I'll link the video that I made specifically about Madison Beer and why I think her career flopped. But I don't think that she's as successful as other industry plants, but I think that she's an industry plant nonetheless. Now, Madison Beer was allegedly discovered on YouTube around the age of 12, doing covers in a studio. First of all, red flag number one. How is she organically discovered if she's doing covers in a professional studio? I remember clocking that at like 11 because I'm like a year younger than Madison. And I remember being like, that doesn't seem very organic. How are you doing covers in a professional studio? And then, like, obviously you already have an advantage of being discovered in the first place, which, that's neither here nor there. But to make it seem like you're like super organic or you just kind of came up just because of raw talent, I mean, your parents obviously put money into you being able to record in a professional studio. Now, apparently, allegedly, she was discovered by Justin Bieber on YouTube. He tweeted a link to her video and said, she's super talented. Go watch this video. And the next thing you know, she just kind of rose to stardom. A lot of people became interested in her. And then over time, she was continued to be pushed by Justin and his manager, Scooter Braun. At one point, I think that she was being managed by Scooter Braun or something to that effect, but she was later dropped. And so she's still making music and she's still kind of pushing. But I think that there are a lot of factors as to why she flopped. But in the beginning, I think that she was definitely an industry plant. Not only just because of how she came up, that was weird to me. The way that like her YouTube videos were never just like in her room, or they were never like grainy camera quality, and like they were really professional videos. That's gonna be a red flag, like to anybody, as to, is this really an organic come up? Number two, she wasn't that good of a singer. I know that not all industry, like I do believe that an industry plant can also be extremely talented, which is why they might want to push them. But in Madison's case, I think that she was just a really pretty tween, and they were really going for tweens at the time. They had Justin Bieber. They had all of these like male teeny bopper pop stars. They had like Cody Simpson and Austin Mahone. I think Austin Mahone was out at the time. So this was a very popular thing to get these young teenagers or tweens and then push them into the media. So they were looking for the next one, and they found a female, and she was really pretty, and she had the skeletons, I think, of a good voice, and I think over time she's obviously developed her voice. But at the time, she wasn't that great. Like, I remember listening to her and thinking, she's not that great. But they were really lying to our faces and telling us that she was, like, the best thing since sliced bread. And so those were the two reasons why I had always kind of thought that she was an industry plant. Like, even before I found out what I found out about her, I always thought that she was an industry plant. But what's also interesting is that Madison's mom knew Scooter Braun before she was allegedly discovered by Justin Bieber. This is a picture of Scooter and Madison's mom, definitely before Scooter had ever discovered Justin, I think, even. So they actually knew each other before Madison blew up. And so once this was found out, and this was found out a while ago on the internet, it was concluded that Justin never discovered Madison. It's almost like how people used to say for a long time that Usher discovered Justin Bieber. Usher did not discover Justin Bieber. Scooter Braun did. And in this case, no one discovered Madison. I think Madison was just pushed by her mom into Scooter's hands and said, listen, we have something here. Scooter thought that there was potential, but ultimately the ties were severed and they went their separate ways. So I think that Madison was sort of a failed project for Scooter, but he already knew Madison's mother. And so it was easy to just kind of push her through Justin, who was actually organically found. So if you see someone who was organically found pushing someone else, you're going to think that they were organically found, when in reality, this girl was being pushed since the beginning. Also, I think that she comes from a relatively wealthy family, which is, again, why she was able to afford to have such great quality videos, like as her first videos on YouTube. And just being able to do all of these things and follow her passion at like 12 and things like that is, I think, because her family is relatively wealthy. And I think that she started off as an industry plant, but I think that she was one of the industry plants that might have failed, in my opinion, just because, I mean, if you look at her career, she's been out for like a decade. Like Madison, I've known who Madison Beer was for a long, long time. And she has yet to really make any noise. She has yet to really do what they kind of set her out to do. And I think that Scooter kind of gave up on her a while ago because it was a failed project. But I do believe that in the beginning, she was an industry plant. Now, does that mean that she can't be successful now? Does that mean that I won't listen to her music? No. I don't really like her for other reasons, but that's neither here nor there. But we have to acknowledge that, yeah, she's, in my opinion, she's definitely an industry plant. Next, let's talk about Dua Lipa. Now, I want to start off with this tweet because I found it to be very interesting. It says, Dua Lipa is an industry plant. No one knows that woman outside of Twitter, yet she has multiple songs pushing 40 plus weeks. She literally makes radio hits and that's it. No artistry, no nothing. She's cute and unproblematic, so y'all don't say anything. I think that this is true. I kind of clocked the fact that like nobody knows anything about Dua Lipa a few months ago. I just found it interesting that she is always on the radio, but like no one knows anything about her. And especially as a pop star, a lot of times there comes a story with you, you know, like for example, Ariana Grande. A lot of people know a lot about Ariana Grande. A lot of people know how she came up and things of that nature. But as far as Dua Lipa is concerned, it's like, who is this girl? She came out of nowhere. No one really knows anything about her. Like, usually someone who is that famous, or at least has that many hits on the chart at all times, as soon as she came out, ever since she started dropping music, she has really never left the charts for like a few years, and no one knows anything about her. I mean, even Olivia Rodrigo, she literally just debuted like 6 months ago, and people know a lot about Olivia Rodrigo. People know a lot about her story as far as like, you know, the heartbreak and things like that. Yet we don't know anything about Dua Lipa, and she debuted years ago. That is interesting to me. So I decided to do a little digging myself just about her background and everything. And turns out that her dad, also like her, was already in the industry and part of a band called Opa. She's European, so I'm pretty sure this is like more European based. And then she went to performing arts school, and she started off as a model and then shot quickly to stardom. So she started off as a model. That's one thing that stood out to me. Well, the first thing that stood out to me, obviously, was that her dad started off in the industry, was already making music, like already made music and did all of that. And then she went to a performing arts school. So I believe that, more wealthy kids usually go to performing arts schools, even though I'm not really 100% sure, her family's wealth, but, her dad was in the industry. So it kind of makes sense that maybe they were wealthier. And then she started off as a model, which, by the way, she definitely should be a model. Like, she's freaking gorgeous. Like, genuinely, and her photo shoots are so interesting. So I definitely think that, like, she would make a great model right now. Like, she could do that on the side too. That would be great. And I think she does. She should continue. Like, please continue, girl. You look amazing. But that's something that I also noticed with Madison. They usually pick pretty girls. Like, she started off as a model. The girl, she's a model and she can carry a tune. They're going to push you, right? Because you're pretty. And so, they can make a buck off of you. If the prettier you are, the easier you are to sell. And it seems like as soon as she debuted, she just shot to stardom. I mean, New Rules was, it hit like 1 billion views on YouTube. It was super popular. And then One Kiss got super popular. And it was just this random girl who came out of nowhere. No one really knew anything about her. And they still don't. You look at Levitating right now. She is really killing it with that song. And no one really knows anything about her. Also, if you listen to her music, one thing that's interesting about it is that it's not very personal, and I don't think that she really writes a lot of her music. One time I was actually at a music festival a few years ago, and this artist named Jessie Reyes was like, "Hey, I have a number one," and I was like, "No, you don't." In my head, I was like, "No, you don't, babe. Like, you don't have a number one." And then she ended up singing One Kiss. And she was like, "Yeah, I wrote this song." And Dua Lipa sang it, which is interesting. Like, how is it that she's already getting songs written for her when she just started out? In my opinion, ding, ding, ding. That means you're an industry plant, babe. Now, do I appreciate Dua Lipa? Do I appreciate her aesthetic? Do I appreciate her voice? Yeah. Do I think that she's the most talented? Definitely not. I don't think I've ever seen her play an instrument. I don't know if she writes a lot of her music, but I don't think that she does, especially because and even the music that she does have, it's very kind of like bubblegum pop. Not super bubblegum pop, more like dance pop, but I don't think that it's like really hard to make the type of music that she has. Her dancing isn't very great. I think that her voice is nice. She has a very nice tone. I like her tone, but I don't think that she's like a vocalist by any stretch of the imagination. So really, I think that, if she didn't have the type of team that I think she has and the type of backing, the type of writers and the type of people that deal with her aesthetics, she would be a very boring artist and a very bland artist, and I don't think that she would sell. Do I like her? Yeah. She hasn't really done anything except for she did do a cover of a song where she said the N-word. That was very interesting. But I don't have anything against her, but do I think that she's an industry plant? Yes. All the signs point to yes, especially because we don't know anything about her. Why don't we know anything about her unless they have something to hide? And lastly, let's talk about Lil Nas X. Now, I want to start off with this tweet where he says, "Yeah, I'm an industry plant, and what y'all gonna do about it?" Now, clearly he is a troll, but he was responding to discourse about him being an industry plant in 2019. Why? Because he came out of nowhere. Again, a lot of these people come out of nowhere and then just like pop out of nowhere, out of the blue. No one really knows anything about them. No one really knows anything about their background. And I think Lil Nas X is another perfect example of that. His song Old Town Road got really popular. And one thing that about Old Town Road was that it was a meme song, right? Now, this was before TikTok. And I think that that's important to note, because if you look at how TikTok blows up songs now, this could totally have been organic. But because TikTok wasn't out, and I know that that's such a weird thing to say considering how new TikTok is, but how it really does affect the charts. Like TikTok, it controls the charts at this point in time. If he had dropped during TikTok, it would make perfect sense and it wouldn't seem industry planty. That's why I'm really not including Olivia Rodrigo in this. I was debating including her in this, but one, a lot of people knew who she was because she's also an actress. And number two, TikTok blows people up without them having to do anything. A lot of indie small artists get blown up on TikTok because one sound goes viral. So it's very easy for that to happen. And even though there are obviously viral songs that got big without TikTok, and there are obviously like viral videos and all of that, songs going number one off of the internet was rare at the time. So I think that it was a very strange thing for Old Town Road to just skyrocket the way that it did without him having to do anything. Again, also another thing is that Lil Nas X, not many people know anything about him. The only thing that we know about his background is his Twitter that got exposed, where he was saying disgusting things, which I will link in the description below because I need you to watch that video so that you don't support this man because he is disgusting. But all of that's the only thing that we really know about him. No one really knows much about this dude. Also, he's a troll on the internet, which I think is contrived. I think that that's also something that is planned. I think that the industry wanted someone who was internet friendly. And so when they saw Lil Nas X, they saw that he made a meme song. They saw that, he can garner a pretty big following on Twitter and he can be funny and he can be someone who a lot of people like just because they feel like he has a likable personality, but also is very detached as far as like what is his personal life like, even though obviously we don't need to know your personal life. It's just interesting and weird that we don't know much about him. And we don't know really how he came up, like how all of this happened. We just know that like he blew up on SoundCloud and then just got famous. That's a red flag to me. Like that song blowing up the way that it did is a red flag to me. And then the amount of money that was pushed into him kind of immediately after it blew up is also a red flag. And it seems to me like labels were pushing him. That's what it seems like to me. It just doesn't really add up as to how fast everything happened with him and how much he's just been pushed ever since then. It's just very interesting. And honestly, I think that he's an industry plant, especially also just because I don't think that he's like the most talented person in the world. I don't know if he makes his own music. As far as his voice, like he doesn't really have one. Like his music isn't very good, honestly. So I don't know if he makes his own music. I think that anyone who can make their own music is talented, but I mean, his music isn't that great for him to be this popular. I understand Old Town Road, I think, just because it was like a meme song. But for him to continue to be this popular, continue to have this much funding, for his past to be so under wraps, and for all of the things that he did on the internet to be so under wraps for so long, and still kind of being kept kind of on the down low, that to me says that he is an industry plant, in my personal opinion. So that is it for me. Please enjoy this obligatory picture of Keith Powers as I close out. But yeah, I just wanted to open up this discussion about industry plants, who I personally think are industry plants. I probably have more, but these are the 4 that I could think of while I was planning this video. So if you have more that you would maybe want me to talk about, or you have more that you just want to discuss in the comment section below, please go ahead and comment them down below. I just want to see what people would say, like what they've observed about different artists. And again, like I said earlier in the video, and I just want to reiterate this, I care about the music. this isn't a hate video. This isn't like a hit piece where I'm like, oh, these people are horrible people. Like, if I say that they're horrible people, it has nothing to do with them being an industry plant. Do I like the fact that there are industry plants? No. I would rather people be discovered organically, because then that means that we get the best talent. And it also just isn't deceitful. But do I feel like it's the worst thing in the world for you to start off as an industry plant? No. Especially if you are actually talented. Like, some people, they might feel like that is the avenue that they have to take. But they're really talented. And for that, you know, do what you got to do, I guess. I just don't like the idea of kind of feeling like you're being lied to. But other than that, you know, this isn't really a hit piece or like a hate video towards these artists. I like her. I like Dua Lipa. I don't listen to Madison Beer really. And I definitely don't listen to Lil Nas X. And again, I'll link the videos that I made about them specifically down in the description below, just so that you can understand why I'm saying that. But that doesn't have anything to do with the fact that they're industry plants, in my opinion. So just to clear that up. So yeah, that is it for this video. If you did enjoy it, please go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. Go ahead and comment down below your thoughts, who you think are industry plants, all of that. Comment that down below. Please do subscribe to my channel and turn on the post notifications so that you are notified of the next time that I post a video. And follow me on Twitter. My Twitter will be in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.